Thank you for watching the video on how to do maintenance on a GS compressor. Today we'll be doing maintenance on a GS 10 horsepower compressor. The first thing that we're going to want to do is drain the oil from the sump. In order to achieve this, what we're going to do is take the bolt out that is inside the sump. Once the bolt is out, we're going to put a drain plug in there. As you can see, we have made our own drain plug, but you can use anything. Once that's in there, we're going to open up the ball valve and we're going to release the oil. As you can see, it's draining. Depending upon the consistency of the oil determines how long it takes to drain. Cleaner oil that has less particles in it will drain faster than oil that has significant particles and that is caramelized. So doing your maintenance frequently will really save some time for you. While we're waiting for this to drain and the ball valve is open, we're going to replace the separator. In order to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to take the top off the compressor. This is the fastest and easiest way to do maintenance on the compressor. There's 10 bolts on the top of the compressor. We're going to take an 8mm socket to take these off. They should come off relatively fast. Once you get the bolts on the top off, you can remove the top and put it to the side. Once these are removed, you have ease of access to get inside the compressor. The first thing that we're going to want to do is take off the sensor on top of the compressor. And all you have to do is unscrew that. Once that's done, we're going to take off the large minimum pressure valve that's on top of the sump. In order to do this, all we're going to do is take a 13mm ratchet. There's 2 bolts and we want to loosen those on both sides, as you can see. Once those bolts are removed, and you can place those on top of the radiator right there, we're going to loosen up the other side of that long hose, and that is on the air outlet. Once that has been removed, that long pipe with the minimum pressure valve on it will be easy to take off and stick on the radiator until we need to assemble it again. Once that's been completed, we're going to take a 13mm ratchet again, and we're going to unscrew that oil return line. As you can see, we will unscrew that. And remove it gently. Once that has been removed, we will remove the other oil return line at the sump. And put that to the side. Now we are going to remove the bolts on top of the sump. We're going to unthread these as to ensure that we don't wreck the threading in the bolts. And although a drop-in separator is a little bit more work to get off than a spin-on separator, which sits on top of a monoblock, you are going to get better separation. The separator will get you down to 3 parts per million, ensuring that you can get the compressor cleaner than a spin-on separator. As you can see, we are unthreading the bolts, And once these are unbolted, you can take the top of the separator off, and we just stick it like so. Once that's been completed, we remove the separator and toss it. We will then stick a brand new separator in there, ensuring that we have gaskets on the top and the bottom of the separator. The gaskets create grounding for the compressor. We will stick the top of the sump with the oil return line back on it, cross bolt it, and tighten that. While we're doing this, the oil is still draining out of the oil drain plug into our bucket. As you can see, we've got those tight on the sump. And then we're going to stick that minimum pressure valve back on the top of the sump and connect those oil return lines. Once we do this, we're going to stick the 4 bolts that go on our air outlet. As you can see, we are always cross-threading and cross-unthreading to ensure we get a snug fit. We will put our oil return lines back where they need to go, ensuring that they're tight. And then we'll tighten up the minimum pressure valve one last time to ensure we'll replace the transducer and put that back on. Once this is done, sure our oil is still leaking, or still coming out, as it's slowly coming out here. And then we'll continue on with the rest of our maintenance. As you can see, we're going to remove the air filter and the oil filter next. The oil filter or the air filter gets replaced, and all we do is take the air filter housing off of the inlet with a 6mm Allen socket. We'll loosen that up, take the air filter and the housing off. We'll take the butterfly nut off the housing. We'll take the old air filter and we'll toss that, and then we'll stick our new air filter on there. Put that back together with the washer, and then we're going to stick it right back on the inlet. The inlet actually sits on top of the air, and the air is the thing that compresses the air, the most important component within the compressor. Once that air filter is snug on there, we're going to tighten that up with that 6mm Allen socket, and we just replace our air filter. Our last step, we're going to ensure that it's tight, is to replace the oil filter. Oil filter is the messiest process here, but that's okay. We do have our box of rags, so we should be good to go. So in order to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to unspin the oil filter and spin on a new one. Depending on how tight it is, we can take it off per hand, or we may need a strap wrench in order to take it off. Do be careful, it will leak when coming off, so make sure you have your rags ready to go. Do you like to put those on the air filter or the air filter housing just to ensure nothing gets messy? And then we'll spin it off. Always want to make sure that you've got your new oil filter readily available. As you can see, the oil is coming out of the sides of the oil filter, so it is causing a little bit of a mess. We're going to do as fast as we can is spin back on that oil filter. If you are spinning it on and it's dry, you are going to want to make sure that on that gasket that's on the oil filter, you do put a little oil on there to lubricate it. If it does get dry, it's going to crack, and we don't want that to happen. Put that the oil filter back on, hand tight, and then a 1/4 inch past hand tight with a strap wrench if you have it. The compressor does run at approximately 175 psi, so we do want to make sure that that does fit snug, so nothing does fly off or you don't have any problems. After that, he will put on a strap wrench and do that a 1/4 turn past hand tight. Okay. There we go. At this time, we should be good to go. I forgot to tell you, while we were taking out the old oil, we actually did pour in more through the top of the sump, so you do have more oil on there. If it's not draining as fast as ours is clearly not draining, once it does all drain, you can close the ball valve, and then you can actually put the oil in the oil return line. And the oil return line is located right there, right by the actual sight glass. So if you do have problems or you need to add more, that is where you'd add it. On that sight glass, you're going to want to make sure that that oil is 3/4 of the way up. So you're going to want to make sure it's that line or a little above it. Obviously, you're going to not be able to tell where the oil is until the compressor is off. Oil does go through the whole separator. It goes through the air end, and it does go through your radiator at the top. So until the compressor is off, you will not be able to actually tell how full the compressor is. Once we've completed those steps, all we're going to do is put the top back on the compressor, and that is as easy as maintenance is.